The Scope in Norfolk, Virginia, a big stronghold for Jim Crockett Promotions. They would always get hot crowds, big business, and even after they sold to Ted Turner and they were rechristened WCW, Starrcade 1988 took place, and boy, that was a hot crowd, and it was still big business. And then, just 3 years later, we have this event. And oh boy, is it something else. I'm John Renton with the Retro Review of WCW Starrcade 1991, the first annual Battle Bowl. If you're unfamiliar with the concept of Battle Bowl, here's how good it was. It was so goddamn good that Jim Herd was sent packing just a few weeks after this event. So great job there, Jim Herd, you fucking idiot, or whoever came up with this goddamn thing. It was really, really shit. So let me know your thoughts on this event in the comments, please. But for those that are the uninitiated, Battle Bowl was basically utilizing the Lethal Lottery, as I rechristened the Queefle Lottery, because of course I fucking do. Though there were no women here, because we couldn't have any kind of queefing like that, though we did have Missy Hyatt. You know what? This is getting really goddamn messy. The Lethal Lottery, it was just taking various people in the face and heel locker rooms, and human centipedeing them together in various tag matches, unlikely alliances. Maybe you get a dangerous alliance, because the dangerous alliance was a thing at this point, and maybe you get, you know, some tag partners on opposite sides, and can they get along? And whoever is on the winning side gets to advance to Battle Bowl. And basically this was 2 rings, and the 2-ring Battle Royal had been done by WCW and had been done by other companies, you know, in the past. And hell, WCW would kind of take this concept and make World War III for 95, 96, 97, and 98. 3 rings and 60 men. Oh boy, that was something else. I reviewed those, and that was something crazy. But yes, this was the lone time they did the 2-ring Battle Royal for Starrcade. And I liken this kind of to a mini version of Mania 4, where everybody got on the floor and did the dinosaur. No, where they basically built it around just like one particular concept and then did something at the end. And yes, obviously Mania 4 has some positives, and this event had a few positives, but it was just very draining because you got to see a lot of the samey shit and everything. It just got to the point where even the crowd in the Scope, 9,000 people, and I don't know how many were papered, I don't know how many paid, but that was at least a better crowd than they've been getting, because at that point, the fucking business in WCW is just goddamn dire. They got to see various tag matches and everything, and then eventually the 2-ring Battle Royal. That was really just a goddamn mess. In fact, this whole event was pretty much just a fucking mess. And even though 1992, things would get a little bit better as far as in-ring competition, even with some of the bullshit, Bill Watts would take over, and some of the best pay-per-views that WCW did during, I would say, at least the early to mid-90s, I would say up to about 96, took place in 1992. But anyway, we're here to talk about, and by we, I mean me, we're here to talk about Starrcade 1991. By the way, they would end up doing Battle Bowl the following year at Starrcade 1992 that I retro-reviewed. You can check that out. And they would also have the first and only Battle Bowl pay-per-view in 1993 that was so good they couldn't do another one. They would bring back the Lethal Lottery Battle Bowl concept, I believe, in 96. And I think only 96, because I know that DDP was the king of the Battle Bowl ring, and I vividly remember that. So anyway, Shivani and JR on commentary, and it's kind of weird to see what would happen. Like, Shivani had a year or so in WWE and then had come back to WCW, and JR, he would be out the door like some 14 months later. He would call the action at Starrcade 1992. I think would be part of the company by Super Brawl 3, but there's a lot of history here. But as for this event, we had Bischoff, Missy Hyatt, and Magnum TA, who I believe was the Law and Order. I believe he's the commissioner or something like that. Because Magnum TA, unfortunately, due to his untimely and unfortunate accident in 1986, could no longer wrestle. And even though he was mobile at this point, I understand that, you know, issues have led to him basically being, you know, mostly wheelchair bound, which is unfortunate. But he's there, you know, still looking like an athlete and everything, even though he obviously couldn't take any bumps. But they had the ball rolly thing, and you got camera shots of the face and heel locker rooms. And the wrestlers were on the stage, by the way, to be selected. So they were on there, and then we get all this pyro and everything, and then they go backstage. It's like, okay, thanks, you saw the guys, now you get to see them again. Multiple times in some cases. So, yeah, I covered all that and did all that history to basically talk about some of these tag matches that were not very good. Now, there were some that weren't dull, but there were some The problem with a show like this, since you just based it around the Lethal Lottery concept, and you had to basically make it pay-per-view worthy, you had to have some of these matches that had no business going 10 minutes. Some went 13. Some had no business going 6.5. Like, it was ridiculous. So, the first, thing for Battle Royal, by the way, Gary Michael Capetta, terrific announcer. Or ring announcer. Great stuff. Always lent a lot of credence, that sports-based feel. He just had that enthusiasm. So we have Michael P.S. Hayes and Tracy Smothers versus Marcus Alexander Bagwell, because he was not Buff Bagwell yet. He was not even part of the American Male. Okay, now it's in your head. And Bagwell teamed up with Jimmy Jam Garvin. So you had the Freebirds on opposite sides. You had Smothers, who was part of the Wild Eyed Southern Boys, and Bagwell, who was also there. And so JR mentioned how Bagwell had recently taken a pounding from the Dangerous Alliance. Oh my. Smothers basically just, he wouldn't tag Hayes for a bit and everything because, face heel dynamic. The Birds had eventually faced off. They goofed around. They did hit a couple, an arm drag on each person, but they'd strutted around, did this. And then we got a melee at the end. And even though we would get, the Birds like having a little bit of fisticuffs, we would get a fisherman suplex on Smothers 1, 2, 3. So Bagwell and Jimmy Jam Garvin would advance. Cool. That match went too long. So anyway, this is going to be a recurring theme. Stunning Steve Austin and Ravishing Rick Rude, two members of the Dangerous Alliance, taking on Heavy Metal Van Hammer. Not Heavy Metal Von Wagner, as I have called him in NXT 2.0, or NXT, depending on when you're watching this. And Van Hammer teamed up with Big Josh. He's a lumberjack, and he's okay. He's not going to play Doink until this day. Wait, no, okay, that got screwed up. It was actually sometime like in later 92, early 93. But yeah, Big Josh, the Matt Bourne, the future Doink. I have no idea why this went 13 minutes. No clue. They could have easily had, just had a tag team title match, had something. A light heavy, they had the light heavyweight championship. They had titles. They had something. You could have just done this and put other people, in, and not done some bullshit. This should have been half that. I don't know why the future Doink is a lumberjack made me laugh. Heyman did take a bump at one point when Austin accidentally got him, and then Rude Awakening on Van Hammer 1, 2, 3. So at least the right guy took the fall. Though I would have argued Big Josh should have, because it's from the Northwoods, Big Josh. So we get Dustin Rhodes and Richard Morton, who had recently turned heel after, Ricky Gibson had suffered Robert Gibson. I'm sorry, not Ricky Gibson. Ricky Gibson, I don't believe, was wrestling at that point. They were the Gibson brothers. But yeah, after Robert Gibson had suffered an injury, he had suffered some kind of bad knee injury. And Morton turned heel, and this is part of the York Foundation. The theme I love. It actually kind of reminds me of a variation of the Never-Ending Story, or This Week on Dallas. But no, I thought the York Foundation had something. Anyway, they took on Larry Zbyszko and Elegante. Gee, I wonder if you can guess who won this. I'll give you a hint. It wasn't the team with Elegante on it, because Elegante, bless the guy, should have never been in wrestling. He eventually gets pissed at Larry yelling at him, throws him in, and Dustin and Richard, even though Richard's a heel, he flashes back to the Rock and Roll Express days, and they hit a double drop kick, 1, 2, 3, and Larry takes a pin. Larry, by the way, who is part of the Dangerous Alliance. So, Bill Kazmaier, the world's strongest human being, he looked like a legit, big man. He was a big boy. And he teamed up with Jushin Thunder Liger, taking on DDP and Mike Graham. I have no memory of Mike Graham wrestling for WCW in 1991. No memory. Not at all. I know Mike Graham was an agent and, was somebody backstage and worked in the office for WCW, because he talked about, various things like, with Bischoff and talking about how Jeff Jarrett broke 6,000 guitars, never drew a dime. It's really actually kind of sad if you read up about Mike Graham, because his life ended the same way his dad's did, as far as business ventures and just a lot of heartache and everything. Really, they should do a Dark Side of the Ring on the Florida Championship Wrestling, or at least Eddie Graham, the Graham family. That would be something, if provided anybody is alive enough to give their opinions. But yeah, DDP and Mike Graham. This is before DDP would, years before he would become, the king of bada bing, the 3-time WCW champion. I also wonder why this went 13 minutes. This had no bit. This should have gone 7 tops. Nothing against Mike Graham. Um, but it's just Bill wasn't. Bill was a fine, a strong athlete, but he was not very good in the ring. Liger did his best to make this exciting, hit a dive outside, and eventually Kazmaier says, "Big man press, small man go," and I'm sure he's more intelligent than that. And Liger, pins Page 1, 2, 3. There you go. So we get Lex Luger and Arn Anderson with Harley Reyes against Terrence Taylor, who was also part of the York Foundation. He was part of the York Foundation at this point. This was before they made him the Taylor-Made Man, which was not a ripoff of the $1 Million Man. How dare you accuse anybody of that? And it was just after the Red Rooster. No wonder Terry Taylor's career never recovered. And Terrence Taylor took on the Z-Man, so you have 3 heels and 1 face. Almost reverse that. Lex was much better as a heel. Tom Zink just was not. He was a fine athlete. He wasn't very good in the ring. He was better in tag teams. Taylor did get a hot tag. We did get some nice near falls. This wasn't bad. I don't think it needed. I think it could have gone a couple less minutes, but it was fine. We get a pile driver, which was called the Attitude Adjustment. That's actually what they called it. It was weird. 1, 2, 3. So Ricky Steamboat and Todd Champion. Remember the Patriots? Remember the Patriots? Remember how ridiculous that was? Him and Firebreaker Chip. More on them later. Weird team. They took on Cactus Jack and Buddy Lee Parker. Abdullah the Butcher wanted to be teaming with Cactus Jack and decided to beat the shit out of old Munchkin Lamb Buddy Lee Parker. Beat the shit out of him. 2-on-1 for Cactus. He just kind of stalled and did some stuff. Buddy Lee eventually got there, and Cactus threw him from the empty ring into the ring. They would wrestle in various rings, so as to not destroy, one of the rings too much. And Steamboat hits a crossbody 1, 2, 3. There you go. Sting and Abdullah the Butcher versus Brian Pillman and Bobby Eaton. So Abdullah the Butcher had, done some stuff. He had, been part of like an alliance with Cactus Jack and everything, and helped, attack Sting and stuff like that. Abdullah, I think it had to have been the last pay-per-view he was part of. I have no memory if he was on Super Brawl 2. I don't remember. I don't think he was around very long. But Abdullah attacks and chokes Sting out with his stick, whatever the hell it was. Pillman, who's on the opposing team, jumps down and does that and everything, and then Eaton attacks him. So basically the heels are teaming with each other, even though they're on opposite sides, and the faces are doing this, and it was a mess. The cameraman missed Pillman slamming Abdullah the Butcher. Totally missed it. He's just shooting something outside. And then Cactus comes down, accidentally hits Abdullah, and then crossbody on Eaton 1, 2, 3. And then Cactus and Abdullah brawl. And I think they had a blow off on TV a little bit later. So Big Van Vader and Mr. Hughes. Mr. Hughes was not very good. He really wasn't very good. Taking on Rick Steiner and the Night Stalker, who was the future Adam Bomb. No, seriously, that was him. The future member of Chronic. Or one of the members of Chronic, who was subbing for Diamond Stud, who, if you saw backstage, actually was in a sling. There you go. And, alright, Rick was over, as you would expect. Night Stalker got pinned by Vader. There wasn't much to this match. But boy, whenever the Steiners would hit those Steiner lines, with Rick or Scott, whenever they would do that stuff, holy shit, they would explode. The WCW fans loved them. And Steiner Brothers are one of the best tag teams of all time, in my personal opinion. So we get Scott Steiner and Firebreaker Chick versus Chip, rather. He's not a chick. I mean, maybe he likes chicks. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he likes Peeps. Maybe he likes Marshmallow Peeps. Taking on Johnny B. Bad and Arachnaman. Brad Armstrong. Brad Armstrong is dressed like a discount Spider-Man. They never knew what to fucking do with Brad Armstrong, and it's a real shame. I'm not saying he would have been a world champion material, but good God. Anyway, Bad as a heel was weird. This was like during the early part of his career. We get a belly-to-belly from Scott for 3. They want to see the Frankensteiner. They got a belly-to-belly. Oh, well, deal with it. The Scope people. So we get Ron Simmons and Thomas Rich, who is also part of the York Foundation, just being spread so thin, versus Steve Armstrong and Ratmaster PN News. We're not going to yo, baby, yo. Steve was mocking Ron and everything, which is just what you want to do to somebody as tough as nails as Ron Simmons. And He slams PN News. This didn't take very long. He slams PN News and Spinebuster to Steve 1, 2, 3. There you go. That's about it. So Ron Simmons and Thomas Rich advance to a ring battle royal match. Okay, so Capetta just has to keep stalling and stalling. And bless him, and I'm not knocking him, but he keeps stalling and stalling and stalling. And then eventually the people come out. The entrances take about 15 years because everybody, even though they don't get their own individual music, they just get, like elevator music playing them. They just get, they come down and everything. And to be eliminated, you have to be thrown in the ring too and then thrown over the top rope to the floor. Is that complicated enough for you? Don't worry. They managed to fuck it up a whole lot more by having various people just go in the ring too to continue to feud with people. Or if you get tossed to the stage, you're not eliminated, you're fine. Because they had that ramp thing that went to the stage. I actually liked the ramp. It made running around the ring hard if you wanted to do spots, but I kind of liked it from a visual point, but that's just me as a fan. As a wrestler, I could understand it being difficult. So Vader was like clubbing Steamboat. Sting. This is all about Sting getting to Luger because Luger had been trying to keep Sting away from him, and even though they were friends, he was trying to keep him away on TV. Like, no, you can't, because Luger was a WCW champion at this time. He had won it at Great American Bash 1991. We won Flair. So it just becomes a mess. People go in the ring too. Some people just get eliminated. Eliminations are happening, and the cameras aren't even catching them. It's actually kind of fucking. So I think they missed half the eliminations because nobody knew how to shoot this goddamn thing because it was so ridiculous, and it went forever. The crowd did pop for Sting. The crowd popped for a few other people. They really popped for Sting because they wanted to see Sting get their get his hands on Lex Luger. And then Luger and Sting were left because I forget, it was down to Austin, Rude, Sting, and Steamboat, and Luger was left in ring 1. So he had a chance to rest for a few minutes, and then they had a word, Rude accidentally eliminated Steve Austin, and then Steamboat was eliminated, Rude got eliminated, and then Rude came back and hit the Rude Awakening on Sting because Rude's a dick, and because he's a heel. And now all of a sudden, no, Sting's, staggering and everything, and Luger's beating him up, and then Sting makes his comeback, and then it looks like he's out on the post, and he's going to get tossed out, and no, he didn't get tossed out. He eventually gets Luger caught on the ropes, and then pushes him out, and gets the victory, and there you go. Sting is the first Battle Bowl winner, and actually would earn a shot to take on Lex Luger at Super Brawl 2 Electric Boogaloo, which I will probably end up retro-reviewing sometime in February. I don't know if if 2022 has a leap year. If it does, I will review it on that day. Or at least drop that review that day. But yeah, Starrcade 1991, it wasn't very good. It really wasn't. And fuck Jim Herd for what he did to wrestling. I hope he's having a goddamn miserable life because he's a goddamn idiot. Stupid pizza guy. Stupid son of a bitch. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.